Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Nonstop Talking with your girl here, Vivian Liu. Due to this time of self-quarantine, social distancing, I finally finished watching the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. And let me just say that I hated it. So if you don't want to watch a video of someone trash talking one of your all-time faves, you should probably click out of this now, because I gave this anime a 1 out of 5, and yeah, it's not gonna be good in here. Before I go on my long rant, hopefully it won't be too long. No one wants to be here for all that. But yeah, before that, I want to give this some kind of structure. So I will share like the synopsis first, and then go into my overall thoughts, and then head into spoiler territory, which is usually how I format these videos. I actually don't have a synopsis for this, so I'm just gonna read the one that's on Wikipedia. So Neon Genesis Evangelion in Japanese is Shinseki Evangelion. Its literal translation is New Century Gospel. So this is a Japanese mecha anime television series that was released from October 1995 to March 1996. Evangelion is set 15 years after a worldwide cataclysm, particularly in the futuristic fortified city of Tokyo 3. The protagonist is Shinji, a teenage boy who was recruited by his father Gendo to the shadowy organization NERF to pilot a giant biomachine mecha called an Evangelion into combat with alien beings called angels. This series explores the experiences and emotions of Evangelion pilots and members of NERF as they try to prevent any and all of the angels from causing another cataclysm, and as they deal with the quest of finding out the real truth behind events and organizational moves. The series features imagery derived from Kabbalah, Christianity, and Judaism. Honestly, that summary makes this sound freaking awesome. So I really don't know what went wrong from there. So overall, I thought this anime series didn't age well. There were a lot of things I was disgusted by, and it was just kind of this spiral into like just depression, and then the ending kind of laughs at the viewer's face, because they're like, oh, you wanted resolution? Well, we don't have any for you, ha ha. So that is why I didn't like this. And so some backstory, I have like a list of like anime classics that I would like to get into during this lifetime before I die. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but Evangelion is obviously on the list. And one of my friends, Peter, a few months back watched it and mentioned it in the group chat, and then another friend in the group chat had already seen it, so they were kind of like discussing it in a non-spoiler way, and it kind of piqued my interest. So I was like, you know what, it's conveniently on Netflix, let's pick this up. And at first I was like, oh, this is kind of boring. Let me just take a break from it. Maybe I'm just not in the mood for like a mecha anime. Once I come back, maybe like I'll be in a better mindset to appreciate this classic. Obviously that really doesn't happen, and I think from here on out I'll probably go into spoiler territory. When I first started watching this anime, I was like telling my other friends, and a lot of them were like, oh, Vivian, you're not gonna like it. I've heard that it's just a pit of despair, that the conclusion is very lackluster, it's not up your alley, it's not something you'll enjoy. And I was just like, you know what, let me just give this a try anyways. And none of my friends were wrong. So that's that. And honestly, I took like a really long break from it, and I didn't even know if I was going to continue watching it, but due to the situation now, I have a lot of free time to just waste watching something, and I was like, you know what, I got so close to the end, I just need to persevere through this train wreck, and I did. And there are regrets. Mainly, I think it was the conclusion that really let me down. But before I go into detail as to like why I hate the conclusion, I just want to kind of backtrack a little bit, right? So I first shared that in the beginning I was like, wow, this is a little boring, and I was kind of hoping that it would pick up, but then I realized like, ooh, this anime hasn't really aged well. And what do I mean by that? I feel like this anime, there is a lot of like, how can I phrase this? It's a wet dream for teenage boys. And what do I mean by that? There is a lot of nudity, unnecessarily, of school age girls, and I was just like, what? Why? I remember there was like this one scene, and they're all really forced in, honestly. I remember there's like this one scene where like Katsuragi had to like reach over the table to like grab something, and instead of and to like show her completing this action, this shot is actually kind of like an upskirt shot from her behind, zooming in on her butt. And I'm just like, why? Like, I don't get it. Why was that done in that way? So maybe this isn't just a preteen wet dream. It's also just everyone's wet dream. There was a lot of gratuitous scenes of naked female bodies. There's this one part where we learn that Rei technically isn't human, and suddenly we get to see her nipples, and I'm just like, what? Why? I also want to bring up the point that there is like two times, was it both times Shinji, or was it Shinji's friend? I don't know. It alludes to them like whipping out their dicks, and I'm once again like, why? It's so unnecessary. It's such a like, I don't know. And read shonen manga just as much as the next person, and I've never had a problem with this kind of stuff. But with Evangelion, like, I was just kind of uncomfortable by it all, honestly. I know that a lot of people really like Asuka. She's hot, she has boobs, she's biracial. I get it. People love her. But I personally found her to be the biggest brat ever. She was rude, ill-mannered, violent, abusive. Like, I just really did not like her, and I don't know how she ended up being so many people's favorite character. Towards the end, this anime tries to justify her terrible behavior, right? So we learn about her traumatic childhood. Her father cheated on her mentally unstable mother. Her mother would often mistaken a doll as Asuka and would rip the doll up, and later on her mother wants to commit suicide and bring Asuka, like, or kill Asuka with her. And I think, I don't like, and then there's like that one day where like Asuka has like the good news of like she is gonna be an Eva pilot and she's gonna save the world, and so she's like running to like tell her mom this news, and she discovers that her mom has hung herself, right? So super duper traumatic. And later on we find like layers more of like her father really doesn't care for her, and then her stepmom doesn't even love her. I was just kind of like, no, that's not an excuse. That's not right. And like, first of all, if you look at it in like a broad picture, right? Everyone in this anime has their own sob story, okay? Like, this is the second impact has already happened. So many people have died. Everyone knows someone who has died. Everyone has been abused, been hurt, gone through death, struggled to live. Like, I don't know. And the next thing is that you can't use someone's tragic background to excuse their terrible behavior. Like, that's not right. You can't be like, oh, you went through some bad stuff in your life. Yeah, you are allowed to treat people like shit. Yeah, you want to slap Shinji twice in an episode? You do that. You want to slap Rei? You do that. You want to throw tantrums, break property that isn't yours, damage someone's possessions? Yeah, you can do that. And I'm just like, no. And then it goes back to the question of this video. Why? So I just really was like, I didn't like her, and I was hoping that there'd be like some character development, some character arc. She'll like grow and realize this like childish behavior is not acceptable, especially as an Eva pilot, because she like saving the world is in her hands as an Eva pilot. And is that who you want to be saving the world? Like, straight up, ask yourself that question. Do you want someone like that who is abusive, childish, emotionally unstable, like throws tantrums? Like, is that the face of who you want to be saving the world? So I personally was just like, what? And yeah, in the end, there is no character growth. She just is exactly who she is. It's stupid. So our core main characters are these teenagers, right? Because they also go through their daily school life and whatnot. And my main thing that I like took notes on was like, I don't understand why these teenagers acted so abnormally. Like, they were teenagers that didn't act like teenagers, and we can excuse this behavior like, dude, these teenagers have lived through an apocalypse. They're struggling to survive in this damaged world and society where they're constantly faced with the question of life or death. So obviously they're gonna act differently, but at the same time I'm like, why can't teenagers just act a little bit more like teenagers? Once again, why? I previously mentioned that there is no resolution to this anime whatsoever. There's no proper conclusion. None of our questions get answered, and I wanted to like leave like a whole separate like slot of like me just going at it at the conclusion. But I also have to mention that this, like, one of the things that really interested me about this anime was the whole Nerf like organization and this corrupt government, because obviously there's something going on that's dirty happening there, right? And literally Kaji risked his life to find the truth, and do you know what we get? We don't get to know the truth, and that is just such a letdown. So Kaji dies, and we also like get introduced to like this new character for like, and I think it's like the same episode that he gets introduced, he also dies. I think his name was like Kaoru. And so I personally felt like for an anime that was all about despair, darkness, sadness, just like death and all those feelings, when they did have a character that died, I don't felt like they pushed it enough. I don't felt like they like gut-wrenched me enough. It's like literally you meet one of the characters, like Kaoru, right? The episode that you meet him, he dies. And then Kaji, it's like he dies, but like we don't really get to see that happen. And I think that's also something like really interesting about this anime, is that there's a lot of death, but the death always like kind of like not like fade to the black, but we don't see it actually happening. But when the mechas are getting ripped apart, all of a sudden there's just all this blood gushing at you and it's just oozing out, and you're like, oh, okay, when the mechas get hurt we get to see that, but when the people die we don't get to see that, because for some reason, I don't know, they have guidelines to stay PG-13. You can see nipples and boobs and naked bodies, you can allude to dicks being whipped out, but oh no, don't show characters dying. Oh, you can show robots gushing blood and stuff like that, but characters, don't do that. So it was just really weird in that sense. And I think, like, if you're gonna be able to show these mechas just like oozing blood and talk about like how traumatic the pain these people are feeling, I think you could have went for a little bit more gore. I think that would have added a little bit more substance to like the sadness of death that's like presently happening. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too much. I am thinking too much, and that's why I'm doing this ridiculously long rant video talking about fading to black for deaths and stuff. I just reminded myself that there's this one scene where Kaji and Katsuragi are having sex, and what they do is that they like, I mean, do I make it seem like it's a real, yeah, okay, whatever. So what they do is that they move the camera to the side where like the, I guess like a desk and a lamp, I don't know, there's like some furniture, and so they're just holed up at that shot, and then you hear the two talking, and then you hear like female moaning voices, only female moaning voices, by the way. And at that time when that was happening, I was like, why? And I was like, okay, this is just gonna be really short. I don't even need to fast forward through this. But no, it's actually not really short. And then once they're done, like there's a little bit of like a dialogue that happens between them, and I was like, I should have just fast forward through that unnecessary awkwardness. Like I was so confused. And then afterwards, Katsuragi, because all the characters, there's like this one episode where like they have to face their inner emotional demons, right? And like everyone is like slut shaming Katsuragi because she had sex with Kaji, and they're like saying the only reason why you had sex with Kaji is to fill the void in your heart. You don't actually love him. You had sex with a man you didn't love. And she's like, no, it's not like that. And I was just like, are we really slut shaming her because she wants to have sex to fill the void in her heart? Like, who the hell cares? Oh my god, I was just like, this is so stupid. Towards like the end, things pick up, right? Like everything just gets sadder. All the characters are going through emotional trauma. They all have to explore their pitiful backstories of what got them here doing this job. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like I can see myself in the end giving this 2 stars. And then the ending happened. So honestly, I've been here complaining like a brat myself. So let me just quickly, no, I don't know if I can do this quickly, but yeah, let me just tell you in my words what I thought of this horrible final episode. So you endure all of that sadness, all of that brutality, all of that depression to get to the end, and you think that you will potentially understand this story, but you don't. The final episode is done in pencil sketch, so they didn't even care enough to give you good graphics for the end. They're just like, we're pooped out. No, that's not really the case, but you know, in my head I'm like, oh yeah. I sound like such a hater right now, but okay, so what I'm thinking is that, like, how do I explain this without being so hateful? So you sit through this grueling anime where it just becomes kind of like a pity Olympics, where all the characters are just comparing and contrasting who has a sadder backstory, right? And you get to the end, and there's this one episode that kind of was like, ooh, we're about to explore all like the darkness and the secrets of the government and this nerf agency, and Kaji died for this. And we don't get any of that at all, because the final episode is so you know how like in the previous episodes they alluded to the fact that there are potentially different versions of you alive, and there are different realities and worlds out there, and you thought this was just a coping mechanism for these EVA pilots who are going through such like mental and psyche damage. Well, it's true. There are different versions of you out there, and there are different and alternate realities. And so pretty much this ending is the cop out. It was all just a dream. And those are the worst endings ever, because it literally told you, ha, you loser, you sat through all of this just so we can tell you it's all just a dream. Nothing happened. And because nothing happened, nothing mattered. You invested time, you invested your emotions. Well, ha, we are laughing at your face, viewers. And that is how I legitly felt when that all happened. So Kaji like realizes that there are alternate realities out there, that there's an alternate universe of him, and he's happy. And everyone else is happy, and he's not an Eva pilot, and the world is normal. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Is this a lie? Is this the dream? Is he dreaming right now? The final message, Shinji tells you that he's learned something from this. And what he's learned is that, first of all, he needs to learn to love himself. And through that, second of all, he needs to be the best person that he can possibly be. So those are the two final life lessons that Shinji has learned and is sharing with you. This would have been perfectly fine if it was some YA contemporary. But no, this is a dystopian with government corruption, with a weird shadowy, remember the synopsis, a shadowy nerf agency, and like we have mechas fighting. It's life or death every day, and that's the two final things you're gonna leave us with. Love yourself, be the best person you can be. Are you kidding me? You must be joking. And you know, like, okay, so that's like the final scene, right? But what really happens in the end is that a bunch of like this other side characters come out and they congratulate Shinji for learning this message. And that's how it ends. I was so mad. I mean, I was really mad when it, like, the scene changed. Like, it, you know, like I said, it started off with like this stupid pencil sketch thing, and then it changed into like back to like color and whatnot, and then the color is the whole like, oh, introducing the whole alternate reality, right? And I remember texting my friend Peter, and I was like, I need to call you right now to vent my frustrations, because if this is how it ends, I'm going to be super upset, and I'm gonna need to rant to someone about this. And then it ends and I'm like, dude, you need to pick up your phone right now, because I am not happy with this. And he's like, I legitly told you could give up, it doesn't get any better. And I was like, well, you didn't told me that the ending isn't an ending. Oh, and you know, obviously there is a movie that provides an alternate conclusion, and I think it's quite necessary and needed. I'm pretty sure like when this came out, when it did back in the 90s, people were extremely upset with the ending, and which is why they scrambled to make this movie, and it's like, here's the real ending. But yeah, I don't know if this rant review was coherent at all. I was really jumpy and I just kind of went all over the place. Obviously, I should have just like went in and attacked the conclusion, which was the part that really upset me. Because while watching it, like towards the end when it like started to pick up, I was like, yeah, I could potentially give this a 2 out of 5. And then the ending happened. I was like, no. 1 out of 5. Negative if possible. I've never been so disappointed that I wanted to rage quit. I've never been so upset that I sat through and persevered through this entire train wreck just so you can end like that with no resolution and no actual conclusion, and none of my questions were answered. Like, and the thing is that like I don't understand, because let's see, I'm like looking at this in disbelief, that everyone loves so much the final message of like, love yourself, be the best person that you can be, and everyone will congratulate you, because according to IMDb, 8.5, TV.com, 8.6, Rotten Tomatoes, 100%. I didn't go and click to see how many people actually voted and like, you know, do the math from there. But at first glance, I saw those and I was just like, you know what? Maybe there's just something wrong with me. That is the problem. It's not Evangelion. It's me, Vivian. My head is not screwed on right, and that's why I didn't like Neon Genesis Evangelion. What really upset me was that I kept making excuses for this classic, right? So I was like, oh, this anime has not aged well, but it's a product of its time and I can sit through that. Ooh, the characters are really annoying, but you know what? That can build up to very good character development and character arc, and that did not happen, especially not with Asuka. I kind of like Rei, but there's really no character development on her end either. And like I said, I thought like in the beginning this anime was a little bit boring, but I'm like, I could push through this, it'll get better, and it does get better, but then like I said, it falls. So I made so many excuses for this classic, and honestly it's made me kind of uncertain if I want to continue with my list of like anime classics that I should get through in this lifetime. I'm very hesitant right now. The only good thing, the sole good thing about this anime is the theme song. The theme song is freaking amazing. It doesn't matter like how many times you've heard it, like it's like you just never get sick of it. Like it's just such a solid production of a song. And that's it. I think that's the only positive thing I have to say about this anime. Honestly, I feel like I'm losing my mind just talking about it, and I should be wrapping things up. As for whether I will watch the End of Evangelion, which is the alternate movie that gives it a different ending, I'd be down to torture myself during this self-quarantine and social distancing time. I feel like, you know, there's no better time to do it than now. So yeah, I think that like in a day I would probably get through it, and yeah, I probably won't post another like video of my thoughts. Like that's just too much. But yeah, I think I would watch the movie. As for this show or this series, this anime, 1 out of 5 for sure, and it will definitely show up on my worst watches of 2020. I'm it's gonna be at the #1 spot for now. I don't know if anything can like beat the hatred and disappointment, and I don't know, I just felt like it was such a joke when I got to the finish. Like I felt like the show literally laughed at me for persevering to the end. So that's that. Thank you for sitting through and listening to me rant and trash talk about this beloved classic anime. As you can tell, I'm like starting to get really fidgety because I've sat here for so long talking about this. I'm gonna have so much fun editing and condensing this and trying to make it as coherent as possible. Anyways, outro time. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in my next video whenever that is. Bye! And stay safe, everybody.